Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fenestration in Canada. We're back again. We've got Stefan Labelle here, Executive Director of Fenestration Canada. Stefan, say hi.
Hey, Pat.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Our
Yourself?
very special guest today, and watch this. I'm going to mess the name up, even though we just went over this. Aiñe.
Aiñe.
Oh, you called it.
I knew I'd do that. I knew I'd do that. She has an N on her name with one of those squiggly things over the top, and I never know how to pronounce that. So
yeah, you wouldn't anyway. It wouldn't anyway. It's a Gaelic. It's Irish, so it's not even a language that most people know.
Well, so. My name is Patrick Flannery. I should be able to navigate this, and oh well. Anyways, Aiñe, thank you so much for joining us. Aiñe is a president and CEO of the Vinyl Institute, and so a really interesting organization. I've followed their work for years, actually, and so we're going to have, I think, a really interesting discussion today. Before we get into it, I should mention we are sponsored by UL and Quanex. Thank you once again for their great support for everything we do here. Aiñe, let's start with why don't you just give us give us a bit about yourself and a bit about your work with the Vinyl Institute.
Sure. Sorry, I just something just fell off my window. So
that's never good. That's never good.
So no, I have to dull the light. But anyway, yes. So thank you very much, Patrick. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I've certainly enjoyed getting to know more of the folks at Fenestration Canada through Stefan Labelle. We've been doing a little bit of work together, and I think we're looking to plan to do some more collaboration together with our respective organizations. So that's very exciting for us, and I'm hoping very exciting for Stefan and his folks as well. So the Vinyl Institute of Canada is we actually used to be a smaller council about 5 years ago with a larger association, but due to the demand for the product and the growth in the industry in the country over the last at least 10 years anyway, the vinyl members decided to start a new association specifically for vinyl. So happy to say we're in our 5th year and doing very, very well, and are working on a number of projects within the industry. But one of the ways that we have started to project a lot of our work is to the federal government, working in partnerships with recycling and environmental performance and those types of things. So we have established a very strong relationship with Environment Climate Change Canada, and that's really helping us to navigate through some of the regulatory changes that are coming down in the next several months as well. So we're operating at every level. We do a lot of work with our sister organization in Washington, D.C., the Vinyl Institute. And so we're the Vinyl Institute of Canada. They're the Vinyl Institute. I am the former chair of the Global Vinyl Council as well. So I have an incredible network around the world. I think Stefan has already had some experience with some of the introductions I've made for him in that respect as well. So our membership includes the resin manufacturers. Many of you will know the resin manufacturers by name. It might be Formosa, Poly One, Shintech, Oxy. So they are all members of our association, but we also have Vision Extrusions. We have members from healthcare and underground water main pipe, et cetera. So we really cover all sectors of the vinyl industry here in Canada.
Yeah, you guys are a key partner for Fenestration Canada, I think, for sure, because as you know, I mean, I don't know, what do you think the number is, Stefan? It's got to be 80% of windows are vinyl.
I mean, without committing to a number, because I don't want to be wrong here, but it's a big part of the membership for sure. And just since I have the microphone here, just want to mention, because we already have questions coming up, and I just want to take this opportunity to tell everyone on the line, if you want to talk with us, just use your raise hand button, and we'll put you in the call with us. And if you want to ask your questions, of course, use the Q&A button. So whenever you guys are ready, I can let you know of.
Well, look, I mean, the thing is, Aiñe, you've already attracted one of the big hitters in this industry, Kevin Pelly, no less, from Coltech out east, has weighed in. This guy, is he a pioneer, Stefan, or CP Lowen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, CP Lowen award. He's one of the big shots. And Kevin's already in here with a really a great question that's better than probably anything I would have asked anyway. So let's get right to Kevin's question. He says the market is trending towards single-use plastics, and some consumers lump PVC and plastic together. We're also seeing consumers shifting to lower carbon footprint products and don't view PVC as a renewable resource. Kevin would like to know what's your position on these issues, and how can you support those of us who are using PVC?
Okay, so the single-use plastics is a very interesting conversation, and that is precisely one of the things that I did want to share today with all of your viewers. I'm not sure if how many of you are aware of the new proposed legislation that the federal government is now coming down with respect to moving all plastics of all kinds onto Schedule 1, which is the toxic substances list of the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. So that is a very broad, sweeping, very troublesome type of legislation, which what makes it even more concerning is the fact that it does not require parliamentary oversight. So it's a tool that the government does have at their disposal where if they see or perceive even that there's a threat to the environment from any substance whatsoever, without really providing any due diligence and really serious and thoughtful research, they can actually enact what's called the precautionary principle, which means that they can just go and add a particular substance to the toxic substances list, and it then becomes a tool for them. So our concern, obviously, is that when single-use plastics really was the question that your participant had. Originally, we've had a number of conversations with Environment Canada who have explained to us that really it's a tool that they would like to use so that they could deal with the plastic bag issue. It started with plastic bags and ocean litter, and many of you will know and recall that back in Charlevoix in June of 2018, when the federal government hosted the G7 summit, there was an ocean plastic charter that all of the G7 participants were to sign, all of whom did except for the United States. They did not sign the G7 charter on ocean plastic. So that all was the springboard for now this proposed legislation. So we've been fighting very hard with the government. We've been working very hard lobbying the government and saying, look, if there's a specific issue that you have with a specific plastic, it would make more sense just to put that specific item on the plastics or on the Schedule 1 of CEPA. But to put all plastics under there is problematic, and certainly from our perspective, we consider that a dangerous precedent because regardless of who forms the government in the next election or even in the current government, it really opens up a possibility for deselecting some types of products above and beyond what plastic bags are in terms of how they're regarded in terms of harming the environment. So really what they're saying is all plastics harm the environment and all plastics are a threat to the environment. And that's just not true. Everyone in the fenestration industry knows that when you have a vinyl window, in fact, vinyl is the most sustainable of all polymers with life cycle analysis that have been done. Underground water main pipe is 100 years plus. It goes in the ground, nothing happens, and it's inert. Windows last 30 to 40 years. So we're really working hard at making these arguments with the government to try and get them to back off on lumping everybody into the same package. So I guess the specific part of the question is like, what can we do to help that? Well, we have been working this issue for now about a year and a half. And, we continue, we're just launching a letter campaign that will go through all of our industry, not just here in Canada, but in the US, because we have so many stakeholders that even as they are in the US, they have a lot of business operations here in Canada. So we're working with various other organizations like the Chemistry Industry Association of Canada, who are going to be dramatically impacted by this legislation. The Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers of Businesses of Canada, and any number of other associations. And of course, when I approached Stefan and asked if Fenestration Canada would be interested in helping us to push back on this legislation, of course, he was happy to offer some support on that, which we're very grateful for. So it's going to be a hard battle. It has been a hard battle, but we are getting some headway on it. And as you all know, with COVID-19, the government then, on the one hand, we're wanting to say, we're going to enact this legislation and throw all plastics onto Schedule 1, but then turned around and started to connect with us and asked us to have our manufacturers do significant retooling to produce PPE for all of the hospitals across the country, because there's no access to PPE. And what we did receive from China was not up to standard and applicable to the hospital standards that we have. So it's a very interesting paradox, dichotomy that's going on right now between those, between the proposed legislation and then the need for our help at the same time. So in an ironic sort of a way, the COVID-19, as terrible as the situation as it is, it's actually helped to elevate and highlight the importance of all plastics, not just single use, not just sustainable long-term applications, but all plastics in society. And when you think that until we get a vaccine, the only thing that prevents a virus from jumping from a person, from a healthcare worker, from another person, is a plastic shield or a plastic bonded textile face mask. So I don't know if that has answered the question.
Oh, entirely. I think you have, Aiñe, really well. One thing that for those of us maybe not steeped in the intricacies of government regulation, what actually happens to materials that are put on this Schedule 1 listing? What are the legal differences there between other kinds of materials?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal differences, but I can certainly say that it will have an impact on your ability to market your product. What it means then is that there will be more requirements to put labeling on your product, similar to what we see in California, Prop 65, right? Where everything in California has been so labeled that it's now become ineffective, right? And so there'll be specific requirements. Those have yet to be determined. One of the things I didn't mention is that in January, when they first announced this, what they were proposing to do, they did issue what's called a draft scientific assessment on plastic pollution. Assessment really didn't produce anything that we felt was reasonable, and we're now just starting that process of taking the risk assessment path and trying to keep the government on a path of making sure that they consult and they do the diligence that's required in order to not make a very bad decision here. And so I think, does that answer the question?
Yeah, totally. And I'll go ahead and weigh in here and tell you that the hair on the back of my neck stands up every time I hear the precautionary principle, because it just, to me, is it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you can imagine a threat, then it's a threat. Well, wait a second, all right, that's not how we do things. But anyways, that's me going off on a political tangent.
Well, but I actually, to your point though, many people would argue that this is strictly a political maneuver. The federal government, rightly so, when they signed on to the Paris Accord, there's a lot of benchmarks and goals that they need to meet. And as a matter of fact, the UN just recently reported that Canada is going to be short 15% below what their emissions or their goals are under the Paris Accord. So if you look at our Prime Minister, and again, it's really important that everybody understands that I'm just communicating information. I am not taking a political position on anything. It's just simply an information of what's happened. And so our Prime Minister has, as you all know, was vying for a seat on the U.S. Security Council. And, when you look, back as far as, 6 months ago or 8 months ago, there's a number of those, a number of things that have happened that would certainly play favor to possibly gaining a seat at the UN Security Council. And certainly there has been a lot of speculation as to whether this proposed legislation was really pursued with a view to making Canada's application for that seat at the UN Council would make it more attractive to select Canada. So one of the things we have learned is certainly in May was when a lot of the activity around getting the Schedule 1 issue put to bed, as it were, because of COVID-19, then the government said, maybe we'll just wait until things settle down a bit. So there's actually been a deferral of that process because of the unbelievable demand for plastics products during the COVID-19 situation, and continued, because many of the leaders around the world have continued to tell us that there's going to be not only a wave, but we're going to have more pandemics, in the future that we're going to be faced with. So that's the precautionary principle. I agree is certainly something to be concerned about.
Yeah, it's something that's bugged me in a general sense about a lot of environmental reasoning. But I mean, and in the case of the plastic specifically, it's been pretty clear that you're almost worse off. You're trying to transition to other materials, you almost always end up worse off. I think that's been, well, certainly in the work of your institute has shown that, at least to my satisfaction over the years. I don't know if others agree. Let's get to another question from yet another incredibly important person in the window and door industry. None other than, and you're just bringing in the big guns here.
Well, I'm so happy.
Yeah, well, and all the way from BC, ground zero of everything environmental and green conscious. Terry Adamson has the president, no less, of Fenestration Canada is in here. Most vinyl window manufacturers simply use PVC as their terminology for the material in their products. Most know that it's actually UPVC, but do you often get questions on the difference? Can you explain, and do you have documentation on this? That's a tough one, Terry. Okay.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll answer the piece that I think I can answer. I'm not a technical person, and I have to disclose that right away. But it's an interesting question. We don't actually get a lot of questions about what is the distinction between UPVC and PVC. In fact, we would get more questions in the difference between what is vinyl and PVC.
Yeah, right.
So no, I wouldn't say that's something that is on my radar ever, really. I think that a lot of the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis really are government targeted, and it really are based on us trying to work with government and to also challenge government when we feel the need to. So
I think here what Terry meant, Patrick, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but he says that most know that it's actually UPVC, but often do get questions on the difference. So I guess they get the question. I would say, the manufacturers get asked, what's the difference between UPVC and PVC? That's what I think he's. And if you guys had documentation on how, on what was the difference and how they could explain it to the actual customer, I feel.
I've always assumed that UPVC was something that was somehow more resistant to breaking down in sunlight. But that's the extent of my, I could be wrong about that.
So we have Kevin who wants in, so I'll bring him in.
Oh, good. We're going to get the answer now.
Let's see if let's hope we won't regret this, but he's coming.
Oh, we'll regret
it. Kevin, you're on.
Unmute him.
Is he muted? Yeah, he's probably muted.
You're muted, Kevin. I can see it.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
There he is.
Yes.
Hey, well, listen, thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to ask some questions. And Perhaps this might have been covered later on in the presentation, but if you would have asked me 6 months ago or told me 6 months ago a virus would bring the world to its knees like it has, I would have said you're crazy, but here we are. So I think a couple of years ago we had the bank in, and they were nice enough to loan us some money, and they asked us what caused us to lose sleep at night, and there was the standard items, but I said, boy, I'd hate to see PVC outlawed. I mean, when you just mentioned that, because that would just rock, obviously, our world and a lot of people's worlds. So when you just mentioned that, the toxic substance list, I almost fell off my chair. But I'm okay. I took a couple of deep breaths, and I think we're okay. There's a couple of things. When people think about PVC, they lump it into plastics. And I said earlier that they're trending towards single use plastics. I meant trending away. Like in Nova Scotia, they were banned.
Right. I was actually going to ask for clarification on that. Yeah.
So but consumers, specifiers, they just kind of lump sometimes PVC and plastics together. And then with this whole single use thing, there was a concern, and we get questions. People perceive that PVC doesn't have as lower carbon footprint as other materials, and they sometimes specify wood as an example because it's a renewable resource. So we kind of get branded with this negative connotation. So my question was, do you have tools that someone like ourselves can use to maybe misspell the beliefs or clarify the reality? And the second question is, what can we do to get involved, and what can we do to help you in your role, which I think is extremely important, especially to us that are so involved in the PVC industry? And that's my questions.
Okay, so listen, it's an outstanding question, and you hit all the bullets there, all in that statement. So first of all, Fenestration Canada is already helping out. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we've just launched a platform, a letter writing platform, an automated platform that will allow us to distribute a number of missives over the next 5 to 6 months while this issue continues to escalate, and to the point where it possibly might get passed through the legislation, or get to legislation, I should say. So in our organization, each one of our sectors are preparing a letter. The way that you can help is when Stefan sends you the missives that we'll forward to him, that you get right onto the computer. You go right to, you click the link, go there, put in your name, your postal code, and it will literally take that letter and send it right to your local member of parliament. Yeah. So we're looking to do volumes of these and just hammer them, and from every single angle. And you've raised an excellent point also, that the trauma to our society already from COVID-19 is it's insurmountable. It's undefinable right now because we don't know where it's all going to end. When you start to take the plastic value chain, not just vinyl, and you start to yank the rug, as it were, from underneath that industry, the domino effect is just, it's hard to know where it begins and it's hard to know where it ends. So one of the things that we're doing is as I said to Stefan, is I just want to get as many associations, as many people, as many participants as possible to let Stefan know if you want to be part of this and you want to write letters and get involved, then we're here to let you do that and to help us push back on this, because it really is not just precedent setting for the plastics industry, and it not only sets up a potential tool for deselection of certain plastics, but it also opens it up to all industry that at any random moment in time can also have their substances, whether it's aluminum or anything that they see is generating a carbon footprint greater than what they want it to be. That can just as easily happen to any other material as it's currently happening to plastic. So yeah, I would say that in a nutshell, it's just stay in contact with Stefan. He can make me aware of who wants to contribute. I'm happy to also, speak to anybody in the Fenestration sector of the industry who would like to actually write a letter and see if we can incorporate that into our missives as we go. So.
Yeah, and just to add on this, so as you guys know, we don't only represent people who manufacture with vinyl or PVC, but so that's why we kind of can't just go out there and put a Fenestration Canada just global statement, which I feel would not have the same impact anyway as what the Vinyl Institute of Canada is doing with this letter system here. So you guys used a system similar to that. We have one for our own stuff, so it's really easy. And as soon as these letters starts to roll out, you'll know that it's happening. So I'll encourage you to sign them if you agree to what's said. Right?
It's very, very easy. It takes not even 3 minutes. It takes 1 minute to go in, put your name, your postal code, and then the database does the rest.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tag on one more part to my answer there. And just before this podcast today, I was on the phone with Environment and Climate Change Canada and their representatives on the Basel Convention. And I'm not sure if anybody is aware of what the Basel Convention is, but it's again one of these oversight global organizations that makes decisions at a level about various products based on a lot. I don't know if they're assumptions, I don't know if they're research, but I just had a team of 6 people, 2 from the US and 4 of us from Canada, on with a group of Environment and Climate Change Canada folks to talk about a prior informed consent directive that's come from the OECD, who oversees the Basel Convention regulatory issues. And basically what it means is that they have lumped PVC into a group of waste and scrap categories when it comes to transboundary sales, whether it's purchasing or selling of scrap or what they're referring to as waste, but we refer to as a commodity. So we just went through an hour on that call training them on how to identify the difference between what is waste and what is an actual commodity that we carry on our books as manufacturers, right? And so part of what we're learning is that these decisions that are being made and they don't even understand when they assign a brand or a label to something like PVC waste or scrap, that it's actually not waste. It's a commodity that's being bought and sold across the world. And now PVC has been identified as one of the polymers that has to get a letter of prior informed consent from the government of the country that you're going to be exporting from, or from the government that you're going to be importing from. So that's another, assault that's happening because, paradoxically or contradictory, I don't even know if that's the proper word, but I know sometimes sometimes it's those conjugations that get me, but we've just undertaken a number of recycling projects with vinyl with Environment and Climate Change Canada. We just signed an agreement with them in January to do the first medical PVC recycling pilot project in North America. And, our argument today and leading up to the call today was, wait a minute, how can you be recycling? How can you be wanting to recycle a polymer like PVC on one hand, but now you're saying that it's waste and scrap, even though that it is a commodity that's actually going in to be reprocessed and recycled into another product, which is part of the recycling. So, but listen, we have several years ago, I started a program with the government called Tutorials on Vinyl. And what I do is I literally fly people from all over North America to Gatineau, Quebec, to their offices. We take an entire afternoon. The very first time we did this, I think we had maybe 12 people. Last year, we were up to like 60 of the regulators. And it was interesting because what we found as we were doing our presentations, we weren't there to sell them anything. We were there to teach them about the product. And you all know Tony Vella from Vision Extrusions, I'm sure. So Tony and John Todd, they joined us last year in March, a year ago. And they did a presentation on the recycling of post-consumer windows from VECA UK. And during that process, during that tutorial, one of the folks from Health Canada asked a question. She said, well, we just don't know why why you would even talk about this today, because vinyl is not recyclable. And we just looked and said, what? And we took the opportunity to sort of dig a little deeper into that question. We said, well, so why do you think that? And she said, well, because we found that out at a conference we went to. And we said, well, what conference is that? Well, it was a conference for, whatever, some industry conference. And we said, well, who told you that? And it turned out it was one of our competitors of the vinyl industry. So we just said, listen, going forward, please don't believe people that are our competitors, because you've been holding on to that notion now, that belief, for 4 or 5 years, and it's not true. And we're here to tell you, and we've already demonstrated that it's not true. So one of the things that we're doing and what we've recognized is that with government, we're fortunate to work with some really awesome people at the government, but we've learned that they don't know everything about our product. They're dealing with all kinds of different materials from a regulatory standpoint. So that's how we sort of decided we'll put a program together, we'll do it annually, and we'll teach them about what they don't know. And by doing that, that's actually given us more opportunities to help them to understand the legislation in some cases that it just doesn't make sense. So I hope that's helpful information.
Yeah, and I it is a bit like holding back the tide, isn't it? I mean, these efforts of educating people and getting at least the real information out there is occurring against this ongoing flood. And I mean, when you reflect on the fact that all this reaction against vinyl began back in the 70s because somebody spot the word chlorine in the chemical name of it. I mean, and here we are, 50 years later, and still fighting these battles. And I think where the role, Fenestration Canada can't take the role of saying X, Y, or Z is better for a window product. But I think Fenestration Canada, I imagine, will be helpful in dispelling at least the myths about the vinyl. I mean, at least to say it's not bad, right? Like, I mean, you can argue about whether you want it for your window, which is kind of that argument sort of sailed, but I mean, that's the spot there.
Yeah.
And the other, and the broader public image is a thing as well. And Terry is in here saying there's marketing campaigns out there that put PVC fenestration products in a poor light, stating they do not last, they warp, twist, crack, fade. I guess what's going on the public front with the Vinyl Institute, Aiñe, or is there much you can do? I mean, I realize that requires massive budgets.
So I think I'm not. I didn't bring lots of data with me today, but there's absolutely no question that one of the sectors that is just soaring right now are luxury vinyl plank flooring. Mm-hmm. And because luxury vinyl plank flooring also does have up to in some instances, depending on the company, the manufacturer, they can have up to 70% recycled content, anywhere from 0 to 70%, depending on the application, right? So we are definitely finding that a lot of builders even now are choosing vinyl plank flooring over wood flooring because there is the environmental benefit of people not cutting down trees. And in many instances, because of whether it's 3D printing technology or what have you, the advancements in the manufacturing of vinyl plank flooring is astounding. And the grain that comes out is almost, in some cases, I should say, is as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than real hardwood floors.
Well, you can't tell it from wood. Yeah. No,
exactly. And just the durability is the really big piece there, and the maintenance, and you're not having to, finish it every, 3 to 5 years, like anything that is a wood product. And I love wood. Please don't misunderstand me. I love wood on many applications, but Flooring is definitely taking its place now. They are comfortably taking their place in the flooring space more than they ever have. So, you know, the vinyl industry from a public perspective is, I think, by and large, the public are not waking up every day saying, "Oh my God, vinyl's killing the earth," right? It's the activists that are doing that. It's Healthcare Without Harm. It's Greenpeace. These are all the folks that are needing to get money into their coffers. And the way to get to that goal is to, you know, place a lot of fear into everybody's minds about how it's all going to kill the planet, right? And so from the Vinyl Institute of Canada's perspective, we are doing probably more. We've been told by Environment Canada that we are essentially the poster child for industry in the government now because of all of the proactive work that we've done with them, right? It doesn't prevent us from, you know, arguing with them when we need to argue with them, but you know, there isn't one of our members that isn't environmentally conscious and environmentally, you know, goal oriented, because that actually only helps you sell more product, right? So why would you resist incorporating that into your overall strategy? Just like now today, sustainability. If you're if you're a publicly traded company on the stock market, if you don't have a sustainability management plan as part of your portfolio, you're less desirable to an investor.
So I guess here with Terry's question, when he asks if you guys have a voice to challenge the misleading statements, so it's kind of what I understand is that you guys are working in the background to actively give information instead of just maybe targeting these type of misleading statements one by one. Is that what I'm understanding?
So I think that there's always an ongoing effort to try and to make those that are communicating misinformation. You know, we obviously try to take them to task wherever we can. The Vinyl Institute in Washington, D.C., they have a program called Vinyl Verified, which is a website that basically scans all of the news clippings all over the world that will, wherever vinyl is mentioned, they'll pull it out and they will, if it's a misinformation piece, they'll literally write the story and push it right back there into social media and into the mainstream media to disprove what those that are trying to communicate misinformation are doing.
So would you say, and you know, I'm just trying to understand what a member or what a manufacturer in a position where they see some type of ads or, you know, some type of misleading statements, can they reach out to the Vinyl Institute in Washington and say, look, like, we've seen this, if you guys want to do something with it? Is that how it works, or is it more they're going to see it?
No. Well, for those things, you'd have to be a member if you had a specific thing that you wanted to. I mean, I think we all know in the association world, you know, the first thing that you do is you serve your members.
Sure.
So, you know, obviously we can't step out of that, but there's a good chance that if somebody has read something anyway in your industry, that we've already heard about it and we've responded to it. Okay. So they're pretty on top of that. And so we leave that to them, but we do a lot of collaboration with the Vinyl Institute in Washington. And that was one of the strategies behind developing the Vinyl Institute of Canada, so that we could have a voice for vinyl products all across North America. And so that has worked extremely well for us, and it's helped us to collaborate, and certainly collaborate in numbers when we need to do a much bigger push. I often go down to Washington, D.C. to Congress, and we lobby there on a number of issues, anywhere from freight, you know, the cost of freight in the United States. I'm not sure if you're aware of, there's a million different owners of certain, you know, stretches of track. That, and every single time that you cross over a certain part of a railroad track, it becomes somebody else's property. And so we've been lobbying that for, I don't know, 5 years now, because the increase every time you cross over is a 300% increase in some cases in terms of what they charge you for that's the time on that rail space. So we're very, you know, we work very complementary together, but in Canada, we're very focused on the issues that are impacting us today. And right now, our main focus is dealing with this legislation that we expect is going to be a much bigger battle than we thought. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and Terry's just asking here, just for clarity, is the Vinyl Institute and of Canada and the US one, like the Vinyl Institute, are they separate or connected together?
Yeah, so we are separate, self-funded organizations. The Vinyl Institute, in fact, is a member of the Vinyl Institute of Canada.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. They're a member of our organization. Okay. We're not a member of theirs, but they're a member of ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you guys are working together, right?
Terry's really helping us. Terry's really helping us out here because he was so distressed at my horrible scientific knowledge that he actually sent me an email here about the difference between UPVC and PVC. And I don't.
Maybe you'd be kind enough to send that to me too.
Yeah. I don't blame him. Well, he didn't tell us exactly what the chemical difference is, so he didn't get that deep into the weeds. But basically, it looks like the PVC is softer. I was wrong. It's a different additive that prevents it from breaking down in the sunlight. But the UPVC is much more durable and harder, basically, as a material. So it's the difference. It's the difference between something very hard that won't deform and something that's a little softer.
Right.
Yeah, it's just different. It's different formulations of PVC, right? And then there's a third formulation that's used for transmitting drinking water, CPVC. So
right. I am familiar with CPVC. One of our members does manufacture CPVC. Yeah.
So we're all learning something here today.
Well, that's the
more you know.
That's the plan.
The more you know.
Step into Mr. Wizard's lab. That's great. Thank you, Terry, for that. Okay, well, what do you think, Stefan? Have we covered a lot of ground here?
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't have any more questions or anyone else who wants to speak. So maybe we give it a second or two here to see if anyone has anything else to ask.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I do want to make a clarification because I think that the questions that you've been asking, they do, I think, beg an even more specific answer to try and help define what we are as compared to, say, Fenestration Canada. And, Fenestration Canada is definitely more technically based, where you are doing a lot of that technical work. We are an advocacy, more of an advocacy group. I've been in I call it the advocacy business. Some people use the L word, lobbyist. But I've been working in the advocacy industry, I guess, for lack of a better term, I would say for 20 years now. So I work at all levels of government and regulatory, but in a way that speaks to legislative issues that ultimately cause more regulatory. So one of the things that I'm out trying to do every day is trying to make sure that legislation doesn't drop in easily. And if there is an effort to do that we make it very hard for that to happen, and we push back. So I would say that would be the major distinction between our organizations.
Yeah, and Terry is making a good point here on the Q&A. He's saying, suggest our members, you guys can funnel your inquiries to us at Fenestration Canada, and we work, I think me and Aiñe, we talk couple times a month for sure about all sort of stuff. So we email. So if you guys have anything you want to bring up to the Vinyl Institute of Canada or see what FenCan can do with them, please let me know. Let us know, and we'll just keep working together. And we have Kevin, Patrick, if you want to take it from there.
I think we're getting close to the end. It's a little early for a real sociable. Kevin Pelly is calling for the traditional sociable. So sociable.
I didn't bring anything sociable, but I as soon as I finish here, I'm jumping on to another 1 hour session with another group as well. So it's just been a really fun morning, and I can't wait till 5 o'clock tonight.
Well, yeah, there you go. I'm preferring it. I think I think given this fight that's going on with the Schedule 1 thing, I hope everybody listening to this and we're going to go broader with this message, I'm sure, through Fenestration Canada and at the magazine. We'll try to get it out there that this is something people need to really be aware of. I can give it a little added sort of
little push
boost with through my channels, and it's something everybody should know about, and just be, all you can do really is communicate with your government representatives, and say, look, this shouldn't be a Schedule 1 material. It's not talked about. Sorry.
And whoever forms the government, they understand taxpayers. They understand them. If they hear from enough of them, they understand. And so, we could have gone a different direction, but we really wanted to talk to people that residentially, benefit from products that are vinyl products that do save energy and have all kinds of other benefits in terms of cost and durability and all of those things. So the more that they hear from, taxpayers, the more they listen.
Yeah.
And so
I agree entirely. Well, listen, what do you think, Stefan? Are we up against the time?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much it now. And I think it's a good thing, because now we can ask Aiñe to come back some other time, and we have more people, and
we need an update.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely need an update on how this Schedule 1 battle is going when that's when there's more developments on that, for sure.
Yeah, I'd certainly be happy to do it. Thank you for the opportunity and inviting me here today. I've really enjoyed working with Stefan since we first met, I think about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so I think we've been a great complement to each other's organizations. So thank you, Stefan, for inviting me on this today. It's been a great pleasure.
Of course, and thanks for informing the members. And as Kevin is saying, it's great to have good information on your organization here, and he's pointing out to the website, so it says that you have a good website.
We're just updating that website too as we speak, so it's going to look a little different come the fall. But thank you.
What is the website? vinylinstitute.ca or something? Or
yeah, we have two websites. One is the vinylinstituteofcanada.com, and the other one is letstalkvinyl.com. And Let's Talk Vinyl is we've positioned it more as a public service website, so that if any kids that are doing projects from school, they can get on there, and we have a couple of experts on there. They can ask questions and get answers for anything that they would like to know about. So it's really more, if you go on to letstalkvinyl.com, it is a little bit more, you can get a feel that it's more targeted to the younger kids. That's one of the things that we have a challenge with. If you go to National Geographic, Kids versus Plastics, you'll understand why we had to come up with letstalkvinyl.com. It never ends. So we've got a constant barrage of challenges with activist groups and fear mongering and misinformation and disinformation, which is a whole other level of nonsense. But we battle what we believe are going to be the things that might possibly have long-term implications for the industry. And the bigger battles are the ones that we need to continue to focus on. So
good. Well, I think that's it. Thanks for coming today. And
thank you.
Patrick, if you can mention our sponsors, you do it so well.
I will mention our sponsors. The mighty UL Canada, where all of your assemblies can be tested in the comfort of air-conditioned comfort in Toronto. And Quanex, the distributors of wonderful window and door manufacturing products of all kinds. I encourage you to run, not walk, to their websites and call their representatives today. We love them both. In all seriousness, thanks very much, guys, for your support.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to everybody for tuning into Fenestration in Canada. I think we had a great discussion. Thank you so much, Aiñe Curran, Vinyl Institute, and we'll catch you all next time.
Okay, thanks so much. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, bye.